So I don't think this is as much lawyer-driven as PR flack.
And look, I'm like you. I have very low opinion of her. I have never really known much about her until this litigation started, but it didn't take me long to reach my own conclusions, and I wasn't influenced by Baldoni. I'm influenced by her and how she's behaving in this case. It has nothing to do with him. And honestly, if there's anybody that I care less about than Blake Lively, it might be her husband, Ryan Reynolds.
Absolutely not. The nerve of this woman to think that I would ever turn that over or allow my team to turn it over. It just shows you the hubris that comes from being like this Hollywood star. Like, you know what? You're up against it now, sweetheart, because I will fight you. I will fight. I'll spend tons of money. It'll be my pleasure to spend tons of money fighting you and turning you into a loser.
The courtroom battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has taken a sharp turn, and the headlines are only scratching the surface. What started as a legal clash is spiraling into a PR war, and now even veteran media voices are weighing in. At the center of the storm stands Megyn Kelly, who did not mince words when she took on Blake Lively directly. In her view, this isn't about airtight legal strategies or evidence. It's about how a Hollywood star handles public scrutiny when the spotlight isn't flattering. For many observers, the lawsuit has become less about Baldoni's alleged actions and more about Blake's behavior, her choices, and the way her team is attempting to manage the narrative. Instead of strengthening her position, every new move seems to raise questions about why she's fighting journalists and influencers in the first place. And while Ryan Reynolds often gets pulled into this storm by association, even he isn't immune from the shade being thrown. The perception building now is that Blake's fight isn't just legal, it's reputational. And in that arena, the stakes may be even higher than anything a judge can decide. Blake Lively may have expected the press to stay quiet while her lawyers filed motions, but Megyn Kelly had other plans. On her show, Kelly unleashed a blistering response that left little doubt about where she stood. She said point blank that she wouldn't bow down to Hollywood tactics or hand over anything to Blake's legal team. She mocked the arrogance she saw in Blake's approach, saying it reeked of celebrity hubris, an actress assuming she could push around anyone simply because of her name. And then Kelly doubled down, making it clear she would happily spend her own money fighting any attempt to dig through her private communications. But that's not all. Deadline reported that Blake's camp insisted they never subpoenaed Kelly herself, a claim meant to ease backlash. But Kelly wasn't buying it. She told her audience that Blake's lawyers went after Red Seat Ventures, the production company behind her show, and in that subpoena, Blake's team demanded her emails, show prep, and internal notes. To Kelly, that was the same thing as coming for her directly. She called it out as intimidation, and her audience rallied around her fiery takedown. On paper, Blake's legal team tried to play it clever. They argued that technically they hadn't subpoenaed Megyn Kelly personally. Instead, they targeted the company producing her show. The problem? That subpoena specifically named Kelly, her program, and her behind-the-scenes work. To most observers, it was a distinction without a difference. It gets even worse. Kelly compared the move to someone saying they didn't key their neighbor's car, only the leasing company's vehicle their neighbor happened to drive. In her eyes, it was the same violation, just hidden behind legal language. The audacity of it all struck a chord with viewers, because it didn't look like careful litigation. It looked like an attempt to intimidate the press. Kelly went further, saying she didn't need anyone paying her to criticize Blake. Blake's own actions provided more than enough material. She painted Lively as entitled, unlikable, and desperate to control coverage. For an actress who built her brand on glamour and charm, that kind of public dragging was brutal. And with millions watching, Kelly's demolition job amplified the controversy far beyond what a single subpoena could ever achieve. Kelly wasn't content to just expose the legal maneuvering. She went for character too. She described Blake as untalented, narcissistic, and another privileged Hollywood star trying to bully people into silence. It was a takedown so sharp that fans joked it was harsher than most cage fights. Things take an unexpected turn. Kelly also detailed exactly what Blake's team was demanding. They wanted confidential communications, drafts of research packets, and internal prep documents that are considered sacred in journalism. For reporters, that's a line you don't cross. Kelly told her audience she immediately hired her own attorney and prepared to fight. She even said it would be her pleasure to spend money just to make sure Blake lost that battle. And in the end, that's exactly what happened. Kelly refused to hand over anything, and Blake's camp walked away empty-handed. What should have been a quiet legal maneuver turned into a viral segment where Blake looked like the aggressor and Kelly looked like the defiant defender of press freedom. The optics couldn't have been worse for Lively, and she had no one to blame but herself. The real question lingering in the air is why Blake went after Megyn Kelly at all. Kelly thrives on public fights, and she knows how to turn legal drama into viral content. If Blake's case was as strong as her lawyers claim, wouldn't the focus stay on Baldoni, the man she's actually suing? Instead, she reached for journalists and influencers. And here's where it gets wild. Kelly herself pointed out that Blake's team wasn't just targeting her, they were also dragging smaller creators into court. These influencers, often with little money or resources, were suddenly staring down motions to compel and legal demands. To Kelly, that wasn't strategy. That was bullying. She framed it as a deliberate attempt to silence critics and scare anyone who dared question Blake's narrative. And in doing so, she made Blake look less like a victim and more like a celebrity throwing her weight around to crush people with less power. For someone who built a public image as a feminist icon, that contradiction was glaring and damaging. The more you examine the choices Blake's team has made, the more it looks like PR stunts dressed up as legal tactics. Sure, there are wins here and there, but the focus on influencers and journalists feels misplaced. The reason this happened will shock you. Even lawyers weighing in on Kelly's panel agreed, this doesn't feel lawyer-driven. It feels PR-driven. Every move Blake makes comes across like image management rather than courtroom strategy. Instead of focusing on evidence, her team seems obsessed with silencing anyone shaping the conversation. And here's the irony, those moves generate more bad press than the original coverage ever did. Instead of shutting down critics, she's feeding them stories. Instead of intimidating journalists, she's motivating them to cover the case harder. In the end, Blake looks less like a wronged actress fighting for justice and more like a star unraveling under the weight of public perception. When your opponents and even neutral commentators are saying your fight is about optics, not law, the cracks in your strategy become impossible to ignore. Here's what makes the situation even stranger. Blake has actually had real wins in court. Baldoni's massive $400 million countersuit was dismissed. A judge sided with her on certain deposition issues. She's even pushing for sanctions against Baldoni's attorney. On paper, those are significant victories that could have been celebrated. And listen to this. Instead of highlighting those successes, Blake's team is bogged down in battles over whether a subpoena technically named Megyn Kelly. It's the definition of a distraction. Legal insiders are baffled at why her lawyers aren't steering her toward focusing on Baldoni himself, the person she claims retaliated against her. To critics, this is proof the case is less about justice and more about perception. By fighting the press instead of her actual opponent, Blake risks losing credibility even when she wins in court. Every time she argues over semantics instead of evidence, she gives her detractors ammunition to say she's stalling or grasping for control. For someone already accused of weaponizing her legal team, that's a dangerous narrative to fuel. When you step back, the larger pattern becomes clear. Blake wanted to appear strong and in control, but her actions painted her as petty and defensive. She wanted to silence her critics, but she ended up giving them bigger platforms. Things get even messier from here. Even when she insists she didn't subpoena Megyn Kelly directly, the paperwork suggests otherwise. Even when she tries to act unbothered, Kelly is shredding her credibility on air. And even when she wins in court, she seems to lose in the public arena. This isn't just a legal battle anymore, it's a reputational collapse playing out in real time. Hollywood stars often live or die by public perception, and Blake's choices are eroding hers with every new headline. The worst part is that this spiral is self-inflicted. No one forced her to chase journalists. No one made her target influencers. Those were decisions her team made, and they've backfired spectacularly. For an actress who once cultivated an image of elegance and control, the current optics are nothing short of chaotic. In the end, nothing makes a celebrity look weaker than trying to silence critics and failing. By going after Megyn Kelly, Blake walked into a fight she couldn't win. Kelly thrives on confrontation and turned the subpoena into one of her most viral takedowns in months. What came next surprised everyone. Instead of controlling the narrative, Blake fueled it. Instead of burying the scandal, she amplified it. In Hollywood, perception is everything, and Blake's is sliding fast. The irony is that she may have walked away from court with certain victories, but in the eyes of the public, she's losing the war. Every attempt to manage her image only makes the cracks show more clearly. And every time she tries to act unbothered, critics point out the lengths she's going to silence them. That contradiction is now her legacy in this case. She can insist she's focused on justice, but the headlines tell another story, a star unraveling, fighting shadows, and giving her opponents the upper hand. If this was meant to be about truth and accountability, it now looks more like insecurity and desperation written in legal ink.